It's a good day to have a good day. Hello, everybody. My name's Cece Ray. Thanks for joining me here at Break the Dish, where we break the news and dish out the tea. We are recapping The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 15, the finale. And boy, was it a finale. I mean, all season, we have waited for energy, excitement, something. And we finally get it on the last scene. But boy, do I have a lot to talk about. Not only just the recap, but I've got some tea to dish out to you breakers, all about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So before we get into it, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish. We are recapping The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 15, the finale. But before we do, breakers, let's dish some tea, shall we? Because I've got some breaking news for you. Yes, I do. I've got some breaking news for you. This is all about Erika Jayne. Now, remember, May 19th, Erika is supposed to go to trial. She has a $25 million civil suit against her from the trustee. And something's happened with this, and it's quite interesting. So Christopher, and I hope I pronounce his last name right, Christopher Pasala, I'm going to say it that way. He's part of Marco. Now, I'm not going to get into everything that Erika and Tom Girardi did to them, because literally, like, they destroyed this guy's life. I mean, destroyed it. If you want the update, you want the tea on that, all you have to do is go to Netflix, watch that documentary. It's a shocker. Let's just put it that way. However, the trustee, for this case, sold the case for $2 million in cash. And guess who bought it? Christopher Pasala. So now they own this case. They gave $2 million to the trustee in cash. So I'm thinking that the trustee figured, I'd rather have $2 million in cash in my hands to pay off some of this debt than possibly not have anything at all for a long time, because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But he's taking not only this chance, but it's real justice. So he buys this case from the trustee for $2 million. So now what's going to happen? Well, if Erika doesn't go bankrupt, basically, this will mean, depending on how the court case comes out, this will mean that any assets, I mean anything, with her name on it, Christopher Pasala can put a lien on. I mean, seriously. Now, on the opposite side, it could also force her into bankruptcy, which, wow. And you know how they say, karma will come back and bite you in the butt? Oh yeah, this is doing it to Erika Jayne. Because listen, if she has to claim bankruptcy, she's got a long road ahead of her, right? Well, guess what? This is what her and Tom Girardi forced on Christopher Pasala. I mean, they really did destroy this guy's life. You know what I'm saying? And justice is being served because now she has to face him in court. Now he owns that case. How does it feel? Karma is definitely coming back and biting her in a big bad way. And I'm here for it because after watching that documentary, I mean, my heart broke for this guy. And her and Tom Girardi, they didn't give a crap about him. And so he's got the chance to be able to serve justice, to get back what he lost. Good for him. That's what I say. So we'll see on May 19th what happens. Okay, so there was this rumor running around about Kyle leaving Beverly Hills. So Demois, who usually is right on the money. I mean, Demois is the one that literally, like, in January said that Amanda and Wes were kind of together. Demois is usually correct, okay? And Demois posted that during the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, at the end, they filmed a scene just with Kyle, and it was kind of like a goodbye to Real Housewives. Somebody was talking about it and posting about this, and Kyle actually commented under their post and said not true at all. I don't know if it's not true or she's like saying that because, you know, she doesn't want anything to get out, you know. I'm not sure. I mean, should she leave Beverly Hills? Yes, it is time for her to leave, or at least take a pause. That's what I think. Because the last couple of years, it's been brutal. You know what I'm saying? But what do you think? Will she leave Beverly Hills? I don't know. Also, talking about Kyle, Kyle is suing her sister, Kim. I don't even know what to say about that, but this came from Teddy Mellencamp. She said that Kyle evicted Kim from a condo that she owns. She was living there for a few years. Kyle has supported Kim for many years. And the, you know, exchange was to be that Kim needed to seek help and stability, and then Kyle would continue her support. But that didn't happen, apparently, according to Teddy Mellencamp. So they're looking now like at a tough love situation. I don't know. I don't know the real details. What I do know is what I've seen. I don't like the way she's ever treated Kim. I really don't. I know Kim has issues, but I think how quickly Kyle can forget that Kim has been working a lot. I mean, I know Kyle worked too, but Kim worked a lot in her childhood and teenage years. And I think that pressure didn't help her situation that she's in now. You know what I'm saying? However, how quickly you forget that I'm not saying she supported the family, but she definitely gave back to the family. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. But this is coming from Teddy Mellencamp. Also, on Two Teas in a Pod, Teddy said that she was at Dorit's wedding. She was at Kyle's daughter's wedding, and Dorit did show up. So she's explaining how there's like this walk up this flight of stairs. It feels like you're in a forest. This is where the pre-cocktails were. And then you had to walk back down the stairs to be seated for the ceremony. And Dorit was rushing in there and came barreling down these steps. And then while everybody was quiet, waiting for the ceremony to start, she's talking really, really loud. Also, they had made an announcement that there was no video or photography allowed. And as soon as the wedding started, Dorit apparently pulled out her phone and started videoing it. Now, both these stories actually are coming from Teddi Mellencamp. And this is what irritates me. I don't think that Kyle, spoke to Teddi and was like, hey, go on your show and say this. But I think that somehow she kind of gets in there and manipulates someone to the point that they feel like they need to defend her. Do you see what I'm saying? So Bitch at Bravo posted a picture on Instagram, and the picture has 2 Sprinter vans in it. So now I want you to think back when they were in Italy. They've made this a storyline, by the way, about how, remember when it was Dorit, Kyle, and Erika? And Dorit, is confronting Kyle about talking behind her back and everything. Erika kind of steps into it. And basically, Dorit turns around and says, I'm done, let's go. And Erika goes, I'm not going anywhere. And she kept walking. And then all of a sudden, Erika and Kyle have this storyline about how she left them in Italy and they were stranded. They were not stranded by any means. Apparently, there were 2 Sprinter vans waiting. Dorit got in one, these 2 got in the other. Now, I also want you to think about this a second, too, because who's filming them on the street? Production. Do you think that production's going to get stranded in the middle of nowhere? No. And this is another thing that Kyle and Erika are pushing as a storyline. Makes me wonder. Do you see what I'm saying? It goes back to that manipulation, self-producing. You know what I mean? We did see a preview of the reunion. And Andy's asking Kyle, if she gets divorced, does she get the agency? And basically Kyle's like, oh yeah, the agency's mine. Well, in California, the law is 50-50 no matter what. But a while ago, Mauricio did fundraising, and so he brought in investors to the agency. So now Mauricio owns 30% of the agency. Now you have the corporate part and you have the franchise part. So the corporate offices, there's 35. Franchises, there's 42. And then internationally, there's also 55. So if he's getting 30%, Kyle then would get 15%. I mean, she's never going to have to worry about anything, let's put it that way. But with that being said, in the preview of the reunion, you hear Kathy turn around and say, does he know that? I think that it rings a bell for Kathy because she kind of went through the same thing with Rick. So there was a partner in Rick's company and they got divorced, and the wife wound up owning a percentage in the company, and that actually kind of that's what pushed Rick kind of out. Now they still use his name. Of course, he's getting money. I mean, they're not scrounging to put food on the table by any means, but that's kind of what happened. And so I think that rings a bell for Kathy, to say, yo, Kyle, heads up. However, it could be karma coming back, just like I had said before, because if you recall years ago, when Mauricio was working for Rick, he wanted to be a partner. Rick said no. And so he stepped away and created the agency. And when he did that, I'm going to say allegedly on this, he took some of the employees with him. Let's put it that way. And so there was a lot of bad blood between Rick and Mauricio. It could come back to haunt him. I don't know. That's karma, right? That should be the theme of the day. Karma. Also, everybody's talking about the seating chart for the reunion. So Andy's at the top, of course, and on the left, you've got Kyle. So Andy's here. And then you've got Kyle, Sutton. No, not Sutton. I'm sorry. Kyle, Erika, Sutton, Amanda. And then, of course, Jennifer Tilly when she joins. And then on the other side of Andy, you have Dorit, Bose, Rachel. And then when Kathy comes in, she sits on that side. The only thing that I have to say is I feel like they did the seating chart almost in teams, like Team Kyle and Team Dorit. Usually when it's like that, because they've kind of did that with New Jersey before, it never pans out well. You know what I mean? Like it really, really doesn't. But we will see, right? Because the reunion's just ahead of us, and it's a 3-part reunion. I think it's going to be good. I mean, the season was kind of like wonk wonk, but this finale, I have a lot to say. Let's put it that way. So, okay, so we're picking up basically where we left off. So remember, Dorit is having her book cover launch party. And we see Erika, instead of going to the party, she shows up at Sutton's house. In Erika's confessional, she says, I can't believe I'm at Sutton Brown's house, like instead of Dorit's book party. Like, are the aliens here? Did Christ come back? But Sutton says to Erika, look, at Rachel's party, Dorit spoke to me, and she was telling me how, about her children and how she had such a hard week. And she's like, when 2 days ago, I just got back home from taking my son across country. Like, she never asked me about that or anything like that, And then she said when she was on the dance floor, I went up to her and I said, excuse me. And she's mad about that. Matter of fact, she said, I'm going to hate you forever. Even Erika said what, right? And in Sutton's confessional, she says, Dorit treats me poorly, and this is what she thinks of our relationship. So Erika says, I was FaceTiming with Kyle a couple hours ago, and Sutton says, I wonder what we're missing. I have a lot to say about this, but I'll wait till the end. Anyway, so now we're back at Dorit's party. Everybody's walking around, and somebody like hit the table or something like that where Jennifer Tilly's $40,000 crystal purse was of this bear. It fell off and it literally cracked open. $40,000 purse. Oh my God, I would have died. And so everything in her purse falls out and everything. And Jennifer Tilly is saying like, oh, mommy, it hurts. So she's picking up everything off the floor, and apparently she had Tums in her purse. And she picks one up and puts it in her mouth. Kathy Hilton's standing there, and she says, did you just put that in your mouth when it was on the floor? Jennifer Tilly goes, it's okay. I know the owner of this club. $40,000 purse. Holy crap, I would have died. I don't even know if I would buy a $40,000 purse, but I guess if you got it, flaunt it, right? Then Dorit says to Bose, Kyle didn't come. She texted me that, she was overwhelmed with the wedding plans. And Bo says, she could have came for like 30 minutes. And then in Bo's confessional, she says, look, it's getting hard to defend Kyle and say that her intentions are good. She keeps saying that she's so concerned about Dorit's financial situation. And for Dorit, this is a financial win. Like, this is where you should be here, So Bo says to Dorit, what about Erika? Dorit's like, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on, And Bo says, I hope this isn't a thing. Meanwhile, we go back to Sutton's house, and Erika says to Sutton, this is like about an hour and a half after the party started. She says, I wish I felt like I should be there, but I don't. And Sutton says, well, listen, I called. She didn't pick up. So I did text her. And Erika says, oh, I haven't done any of that. And she goes, I'm thinking about how Dorit supported me like on Broadway and all these other things. But then I think about the disaster that happened in Italy. And, her calling me a see you next Tuesday is just one part of it. Leaving Kyle and I stranded in town, the words at the dinner table, it wasn't good, and how Bo's treated her better than her friends of 8 years. I get what Erika's saying, but I really have a problem because remember what was posted the tea that I gave you in the beginning. This is like a fabricated storyline. Why are they pushing this? To make Dorit look bad. That's the only thing. And everyone in Erika's confessional, she says, look, everyone has a limit. You can only so much from a friend you can take. It's not worth it. And that maybe PK wasn't wrong. And then she says, I can't believe I just said that. Mm-hmm. Wait till Dorit sees up. So Erika says to Sutton, I wonder if Dorit's going to be mad. Sutton's like, oh, she's going to be mad. Meanwhile, at Dorit's party, Dorit says to Bose, like, I can't believe Erika isn't showing up. Like, she has no decency to even call me or text me. Now, Steve, her planner, comes over and he's saying, are you ready? Because she's getting ready to reveal the cover. And the first thing Dorit says to him is, Erika didn't show up. This really hurt Dorit. Like, you can tell that this really hurt her. But she says, Erika didn't show up. She says, I am surrounded by see you next Tuesdays. I mean, she's just throwing that word everywhere. So we're back at Dorit's party and Rachel sees Amanda and she says, how's it going? And Amanda says, ethos are making money. Everything's great. She says, we're at Dorit's book party, and this is good. Rachel says to Amanda, yeah, independence and power. And in Amanda's confessional, she says, everything I do, I support women. Like, I'm a real girl's girl. And she says, look, Dorit and I aren't really friends, but I really want this for her. So Rachel says to Amanda, listen, independence and power and all this, if it's not engraved in girls or women at a young age, they're just going to wind up on the floor. And Amanda says to Rachel, outsourcing your financials to a man, okay, that might work once in a while, but you can't rely on a man. She goes, and this is where I think you and I have common ground. Meanwhile, now it's time for Dorit to make her toast. Her children are there. God, they are getting so big. She says this cover is the mark of a chapter that was really hard to arrive at. You know, it's a memoir. It's grace and grit and choosing yourself without apology. And she says, all of us here are writing our own stories unapologetically. So she reveals the cover. The book's called Unburdened. And listen, Dorit could be wearing a trash bag on the cover. She's a beautiful woman. You know what I mean? So, of course, I expect it to look good. And it did. So, you know, let's give her like a little bit of a round of applause for that. It looks good. And in everybody's confessional, Bose says, you know, it's fire and fierce. And Rachel says, I'm literally dead. She says that all the time. Did you notice? I'm literally dead. She's like, she's giving me, I don't give a, you know, and she still looks hot and she looks unbothered. And Kathy says, I think this is going to be a really good long read, like good for summertime, for the whole summer to read it. So all the women are now sitting around at the party. They all, you know, gather around together. Dorit is sitting next to Amanda, actually, and Dorit turns around and says, thank you for coming. Amanda says, financial independence, I believe this for you. This is why I came. Like, I know we've had a rough go at it. And Dorit says to Amanda, it matters a lot. And then in Dorit's confessional, she says it's wild that Amanda could come and support two close friends. I mean, she could support, but Dorit's two close friends couldn't even be bothered to walk through the door, you know. And Rachel picks up her glass and she's like, you know, toasting to Dorit. You look hot as you know what on the cover. And Dorit says, you know, seeing you guys show up here, it makes my heart full. She says, but I think Bose has something to say. Bose turns around and says, I'm glad that we have champagne. And then she shows off her ring because she is engaged. Oh, I didn't mean that one. She is engaged and everybody is so happy for her. I mean, I'm happy for her. She seems really, really happy. You know what I mean? Then Dorit in her confessional, you know, she says she's launching this book, Bose's engagement. It's a lot to celebrate. And I look around and I'm reminded of who and what is important and who shows up when you really need them. It's true. The next day, we see Kyle with her daughters. They're finishing up wedding plans. They only have like 3 more days to go. And in Kyle's confessional, she says, my daughter is getting married in 72 hours. It's a lot. I mean, a lot. I totally get this. When my oldest got married, even when the next one got married, I mean, you go through so many emotions as a mother. I definitely connect with what Kyle's saying there. You might not ever hear me say that again, so. But she goes on to say, couples that split up after they've been married for so many years, they've got kids, getting married, having babies. She says, why would they do that? It's so stupid. And then she says, how did we get here? This is big life moments are happening. And she feels strange to be on her own. So she says, some days I feel okay. Other days I'm worried. And there's times in life where I'm wondering when I should pull the plug on this marriage. But she says, I believe that you'll know. When the time is right, then you'll get this moment, like an aha moment. And it's going to happen for me probably soon. And she says, I will act on it. So far, it has not happened. So now Dorit is coming over to Rachel's house for a visit. Rachel says, have you recovered? Dorit says, it was a beautiful moment. It would have been nice to have the support of the whole group. Rachel says that was a statement. And Dorit says to Rachel, Sutton texted me that she didn't want to put a damper on my evening. She says, sweetheart, you just shit all over the damn evening by doing what you did. Rachel says to Dorit, well, Kyle makes sense to me. You guys aren't even in a good place. Dorit says to Rachel, she maintains that she is somebody who cares about me, who's concerned, quote unquote, about me. And what's the worst that I've done? She says, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I don't have it all together like I normally do. I'm not on time. So she's had to wait, and it annoyed you. Like, I'm not myself. I'm sorry. Rachel says to Dorit, have you said that to her, like verbatim? Dorit says, oh, so many times. I've explained this, and she shuts me down, doesn't allow me to have the perfect dialogue. She says, now Kathy is having a garden party. And look, if Kyle is ready to sit down and have a conversation, I will sit down and have that conversation with her. But being flippant about something so important to me, Erika has really done it. She goes, like, I have deep pain in my heart. And she says, with Erika, there was no contentious, nothing. Like, we had a deep love and support, and we built this friendship over a decade. And then, they recap and you see them, like, different things that they've gone through and stuff like that. Rachel says, yeah, she was drawing a line in the sand. Dorit says, I'm curious. I wonder if Kyle's gotten in her ear, because that's what it looks like from the outside. Dorit, you nailed it right on the head. I have been saying this all season, and this is what has activated Dorit. She took the blinders off, and guess what? She's not taking it anymore. And I think we're going to see that at the reunion, to be quite honest. Dorit says, she's in her confessional and she's saying about Erika, like, maybe I didn't really know who she was. This friendship, it's maybe not as strong as I believed it was, and it's a disgustingly bitter pill to swallow. So Dorit says to Rachel, not going to get ganged up on by mean girls. That's not what she wants at this garden party. And you should be able to expect grace from friends. And if you don't get that, like, who needs them? So we're at Kathy's garden party, and actually this is her daughter Nikki's jewelry launch, okay? But Kathy is hosting it. And the jewelry line is called Theo and Grace. It is named after Kathy's granddaughters. And she's talking about how, when you host something like this, you have to think of everything. You're the one that has to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to think of the menu and the helpers and the waiters and the bartenders, and even making sure that there's toilet paper. So Rachel, Erika, and Kyle, they're all in the same car going to this garden party. Rachel says to Erika, look, I talked about you not going. That you didn't call, you didn't text. Erika says to Rachel, I didn't want to. That's how I do things. Rachel says to Erika, Dorit said that Erika and I are more important than that. Like, I expect more than that. And Erika says to Rachel, expect more than calling me a see you next Tuesday? She can reserve that for Camille Grammer. Yeah. Erika was a little bit already on fire. But the big thing for me is while they're having this conversation, Kyle, she's silent, but she has this expression on her face, like almost like holding back a smile. It really, you have to see it. You'll understand when you see it. So, now Bose and Dorit are in a car together. And she says, I talked to Erika, and Erika went to Sutton's house instead of the party. And when I talked to her, she said she didn't come because she wanted to get your attention. Dorit says, look, this punishment doesn't fit the crime. Like, this is the ultimate friend betrayal. And so now Erika, Rachel, and Kyle, they arrive at the party. In Erika's confessional, she says, Kathy is such a great hostess. Like, she knows what she's doing. Kathy throws the best parties, the best lunches. She says she's really got it down, and no one does it better than Kathy Hilton. I believe that. I mean, she should really, write a book or something when hostessing, because over the years, not only have we seen it, but we've heard about it even not being filmed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never hear anything negative about one of her parties. So now Denise Richards arrives, and Jennifer Tilly arrives. Sutton and Amanda are in the car together. Natalie shows up. Remember, Natalie was sick for a while. The weird thing is at the step and repeat, the photographer's trying to get a picture with Kathy and I think her daughter. And he's like, can you give me more of a smile or something like that? So to do this, Kathy puts out this loud scream. It was crazy just to get a smile. And the funny thing is Kyle's in the backyard and somebody said, who is that? And right away, Kyle was like, that's my sister. She does that all the time, that type of attitude. You know what I mean? Anyway, so Kyle says to Amanda, how was Dorit's event? Amanda says, look, we had a rough summer, and I don't know if we've ever had a moment of resolution. But at the end of the day, she said, I said to myself, Amanda, you're a woman who supports women, financial independence. and doing things for themselves. She says, and I really want this for her. While she's saying this, Erika and Kyle are sitting across from her, and they're like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Crazy. Then Erika calls John. It was so cute because, they're FaceTiming and Erika says, hi, love. John says, hi, love. And so she introduces some of her friends to him. She's like, this is Kyle. This is Amanda. This is Natalie. So she hangs up the phone with him and Amanda says, so is this like your official man friend? And Erika's like, yes, it is. And Kyle's like, that's big. Erika's like, yeah, it is big. And in Erika's confessional, she says, I feel very safe with John. There's no pretending or trying. Everything softens. And I'm allowed to soften. She lived with Tom for 20 years. And she said, every day I was like walking on ice. With John, it's like a peaceful rest, So Jennifer's there and she says, I have to leave. Kyle says, where are you going? She's got a Louis Vuitton party she had to go to. Now Bose and Dorit arrive. They walk and they see the girls all sitting, on these couches together. And Dorit says, oh, look, the lion's den. And Dorit in her confessional says, a weaker person would be intimidated by the display of this lion's den. But I don't see lions. I see cowards. So Bose goes up to the group first and, everybody's hugging her because they know she just got engaged. Dorit runs into Denise. They hug. Dorit's like, it's good to see you. How are you? And Denise says to Dorit, Charlie and I had a very difficult divorce and it was public. She says, you're going to have ups and downs, but just know, like, it might take some time, but eventually you might have a friendship later. She's like, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, you will get through this. And meanwhile, Bose is explaining to Erika, like, she's planning 2 weddings. She had announced that the one wedding was going to be in Ghana, and then she has the one wedding in the United States. And Erika says, this sounds like a bachelorette party. And Bose is like, no, not a bachelorette party. So now Denise and Dorit join the group. Dorit says, look, all the gang's all here. Denise says, I gotta leave. I have to go to Charlie's premiere. So she scoots out of there very quickly. And Kyle says to Dorit, I heard your event was a success. Dorit says, yes, it was really great. Kyle says, I hope it's a big success. I'm sure it will be. So then Kyle says, Dorit, can I say something? I heard you were hurt at the event. Dorit says, deeply. Kyle says, even if things weren't great, or even if things were great, it would have been a struggle. Like she was killing herself even to get there right now. And they haven't even spoken. Dorit says to Kyle, it's okay. You both made a choice. Matter of fact, all 3 of you made a choice because she's putting Sutton in that too. Which is kind of true. It was a statement. You know what I mean? It was a statement. But Kyle says to Dorit, in Italy, my feelings were hurt. I didn't feel supported. Like, I've always supported you. I've always had, been there for you. I was there for Lucy the dog, burglary, people accusing you of a fake accent. Like, I've always came to your defense, and I've always had your back. Dorit says, what about my divorce? Like, let's stay in the last 3 years. Kyle says, we've all been trying to support you. And Dorit says, no, I'm just talking to you. Kyle says, I think it's strange that you're upset with me when every person in this group has commented about what's going on in your life. And it's not even just you, like, you're not the sole focus. She said, we comment on each other's lives, and you're only upset with me. Dorit says, every conversation is initiated by you. You're involved. Kyle says that's just not true. And Dorit says, you had a conversation with Bose, you had a conversation with Erika, you had a conversation with Amanda. Kyle says to Dorit, why do you say that I had it with them? Why can't it be instead of they had it with me or we had it together? This is what I've said all season, by the way. I mean, there wasn't one episode she wasn't doing this. So Dorit is right on the money. Dorit says to Kyle, well, there's one common denominator. Kyle says, what are you talking about? One common denominator. You have fought with everybody here. I'm not the enemy. Like, no one is. Dorit says, stop acting like one. And Kyle says, like, every single person has done different things, hasn't done anything different, than what I was doing. She says, nobody spoke maliciously, including myself. And then all of a sudden, like, Kyle, she starts screaming. Like, seriously. She was like, can someone speak up and say that? So finally, Erika goes, yes. Kyle says, I want everyone to speak the truth right now. Stop doing that. But nobody's speaking. But Erika. Think about it. Because it's true. Bose, in her confessional, says, usually I like to resolve issues. She said, but right now, Dorit and Kyle, they need to address their issues. Anyone jumping into this, it would just muddy the situation. So Dorit says to Kyle, you're gossiping. If you were genuinely concerned, you would come to me. Erika says, I don't think it's gossip. Dorit says to Kyle, you get your little gang together, like you feel like you got team members, you got a clique. Sutton says, no, there's no getting a gang together. And in Rachel's confessional, she says, I have Dorit's back, but it's not my place to tell these girls that they're not right. This is years of issues, and it's finally coming to a head. So Dorit says to Erika, what did I do to you? Erika says, remember what you did to me in Italy at the table? Like how low you went? Like all the things you said? And Dorit says to Erika, tell me, please. Erika says, first, don't talk to me like that. Dorit's like what? Erika says, like that. Like, tone it down. And then we can have a civil conversation. Dorit says, I'm here for civil. Erika says, were you civil when you called me a see you next Tuesday in Italy? Dorit says, this is a 10-year friendship. Erika goes, 9. Her attitude was just so different. Like, it was different. So Erika says to Dorit, I can't be shushed. I'm not going to have your hand in my face. I was left in town. You don't want to hear what I'm saying. That's what you get. Again, we're bringing up this left in town when they weren't really left in town. Hello. So Dorit says, look, you have my undivided attention. Erika says, soften your edges. You got to stop letting us have it, like one by one. And then she turns and she's referring to Kyle. She says she's trying to reach you and you're just not at home. You're not listening to her. We're all talking about your finances. Dorit says to Erika, I don't know why you are 1 minute nice and then the next minute you're not. Erika says, okay, good. Dorit says, suddenly everything changed like overnight. She's like, I'm a single mother, hustling my ass off. I have the book cover release. It was so important. It was meaningful to me. And you just were not prepared to put things our differences to the side. Erika says, that's right. I wasn't. Dorit says, you couldn't pick up the phone and call me? Erika says, nope. Could not. Dorit says, I need a minute. I need a minute. That's what she says. I need a minute to process everything and assess, this 9-year friendship. You're being okay with what you did. Erika says, I am okay with what I did. I'm firmly okay with what I did. This is not a guilt group. I'm cool. Dorit says, I finally have the chance to see the real you and process it. Erika says, good, I'm glad you did. Dorit says, anything else? Erika says, look, if you've got something to say, you should frickin' say it now. Dorit says to Erika, you did say that you didn't come because you wanted to get my attention. Erika says, yeah, and I got it, don't I? And Dorit says, you would have gotten it by picking up the frickin' phone. Erika says, if you haven't gotten it by now, I have nothing to say. Dorit says, you have nothing else to say? Erika's like, that's right. Dorit says, good, then we're good. Erika's like, yeah, we're real good. So in Dorit's confessional, she says, if this is who Erika really is, I don't want a friendship. I don't want a friend who can turn their back so quickly when you're at the lowest point in your life. So then Dorit says, anything here that I haven't heard yet? Kyle says, I don't want to talk about this anymore. So Dorit gets up. She goes to walk to get a drink, and she's like, this was a painful conversation. Erika says, it was an unproductive conversation. So then Rachel says, look, I think, a lot of this is not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And Kyle says, this is just annoying to have a conversation. And, Rachel says to Kyle, look, I think it's like the whole thing with like, I'm concerned. You seem different. You seem this. You seem that. Kyle says to Rachel, I do care about her. Rachel says, I believe you. And Kyle says to Rachel, she will get through this. I just hope she doesn't lose all her friends in the process. Rachel says to Kyle, isn't she going to the wedding? And Kyle says she's supposed to. And Rachel asks Kyle, you want her there? Kyle says, yes, I would be happy to have her there. And then in Kyle's confessional, she says, this last year, there's been difficult moments and there's been beautiful moments. And they're showing you like bits of the wedding. And she says, it's times like this that you think about your friendships ones you value and ones you walk away. She says, it's not good to be stepped on by anyone. I don't want my daughters to see that. I'm not going to be treated that way. I'm walking away. I am walking away. Dorit did show up, though, for Alexia's wedding. And you know how they do their updates at the end of the finale. So they're saying, yeah, Dorit did show up for Alexia's wedding. Kyle and Dorit have not spoken. Kyle and Mauricio did not share a room for the wedding, but neither one of them have pulled the trigger on their divorce. The update with Rachel is that the boys' relationships with their father has improved. The divorce is still pending. And there's no end in sight, but she has a new romance in Beverly Hills. Erika, in her confessional, says, I feel like this group is lost. Sad. The distance between Dorit and I. But I'm okay with that, too. Things will resolve when they're supposed to. And then Erika's update was she has a $25 million trial going on in April, but actually she pushed it to May. This is the last push she could have. Remember, we talked about this in the beginning. Things are looking up. She's happy with her relationship with John, and she has a new career, DJ Pretty Mess. So the update on Bose is she plans to have one more round of IVF. She's planning 2 weddings, remember, one in Ghana and one in the United States. Her and Keely are still searching for a new home, and Keely still does not have a drawer, which I thought was kind of funny. Sutton's update is making Sutton Brown official. She says she's keeping the Zen mentality, keeping away from vodka, and she struggles with her empty nest, but she finds solace in her pets and Reba, who's her mom. Amanda's update is that Amanda and Eddie tied the knot in a civil service on September 9th, 2025. While they were taking their vows, the person marrying them said, for richer or poorer. And Amanda said, how about if we just say for richer or for richer? She's still planning an extravagant wedding in October. She's manifesting a bestseller for her new self-published book, Godly as F. You know what I mean? So then we see Dorit and Bose sitting together, and Sutton approaches them. She says to Dorit, may I join you? I'd like to speak to you. So she sits down. She says, look, I know you don't care to speak to me. You made that evident. But do you want to explain to me what happened at Rachel's? Like why you told me you were going to hate me forever? Dorit says to Sutton, it was a joke, Sutton. Sutton says, you didn't say it in a joking way. Dorit says, lighten up. It's a joke. Sutton says, well, you really hurt my feelings. Dorit says, well, then I apologize to you. I'm sorry for that. And then Sutton turns around and says, it looks like you're not that sorry. In Sutton's confessional, she says, I shouldn't worry about Dorit's dismissal. It's not like she's living this great life that I want to be a part of. Dorit just wants to be on an island with Bose and Rachel. And I say, yes, go ahead. They want to brush her hair, hold her hand. Same. Then do that. Dorit says to Sutton, I need to go. I need to get back to my kids. So could you please try to wrap it up? Sutton says to Dorit, do you not see why this is a problem? I'm trying to work on something with you. And, you can't take a second to talk to me in a kind way. Dorit says, whatever you have to say is irrelevant to me. You had a lot of chances, says Dorit. And Sutton says, now you're wondering why I didn't come. Dorit says, you're out of lives. Your 9 lives are done. Sutton's like, I'm not a cat. Why do I, I can't speak. Why do I want to be your friend, when you see how you treat your 2 other great friends, And Dorit says, why don't you go? Sutton says, I have witnessed you treating your friends like dirt all summer. Dorit says, I'm not interested. I'm done. Bose is like, what does that mean? Dorit says, I'm not interested in any resolution. Sutton says, you need to check yourself. Dorit's like, you need a moment. So Sutton is like, I'm walking out the door. Dorit says, hello, goodbye. Like, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And Sutton says, that's right. Dorit gets to call all the shots. Dorit says, I should be calling all the shots in my own goddamn life. Shouldn't I, Sutton? And when Sutton's walking away, she has this like big bow on her dress. It was really weird, actually. And Dorit says, I like your bow. Sutton's like, thanks. Bose says, yeah, I like her bow too. Dorit turns around and says, I was joking. But in Dorit's confessional, she says, I learned about friendships. The ones I have in this group, they have real history, real love, and they're fractured. She says, you don't know where we go from here. Like, she doesn't know where we go from here. But she says, anything can change. Ask me in another 6 months. So then the update that they gave her, Dorit, was Dorit's book is set to launch in 2026. Her divorce is still pending. She lost dead weight in relationships and friendships. She loves being unburdened. And so I thought that was good how it ended. You know what I mean? So what did you think? First off, what did you think of the episode? I mean, I would give it definitely a 9.5. Finally. You know what I mean? Finally, there was energy. There was conversation being had. I mean, like, wow, like everybody was on 10, to be quite honest. That's what I thought. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It was good. And we've seen the previews for the reunion. This is a 3-part reunion. That seems good too. Now I have a lot to say about this season, to be quite honest. Okay, here it goes. This is just my opinion. But Kyle is a great manipulator. I think she self-produces the show and she manipulates people and then she keeps her hands clean. And I think this year, Dorit is activated and I'm here for it. But I think that Dorit took the blinders off this year and is seeing Kyle for who she really is. I mean, in the preview of the reunion, we see her saying, like you were talking behind my back, people are scared to go up to you because, or, go against you because you'll get them fired. I don't think that Kyle would like call Andy Cohen and be like, hey, I want this one fired. But she does manipulate everything. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what we've seen this season. So let's just take it for what we've seen. In every episode, in every confessional of Kyle's, she has been talking about Dorit. And, her saying to Dorit, how come we can't say they came to me or we had a conversation together? Because that's not what happened. And that's why everybody's quiet about it. Because she is the one that has been going up to people saying things. Listen, Dorit has been late for years. She's been late since she started the show. She's always been a shopper. This is nothing new. But Kyle took these things and all of a sudden you think she's OCD, she's erratic. No. And this year, Dorit took those blinders off. Let's give you a perfect example. So normally I don't talk about the after show, but I think this is really important. So, number one, on Watch What Happens Live, somebody asked a question that does Erika do Kyle's dirty work? And Erika's like, I do my own dirty work. I don't believe this at all, and I'll tell you why. Because in the after show even, listen, Dorit is still fired up that Erika didn't come. Didn't have the decency to call, text, anything like that. You know what I mean? And Rachel says to Dorit, I saw her before your event. And then they recap back where Erika is at Rachel's house and, Rachel says, I want you to come with me to this book launch. And Erika's like, I don't know. And she's like, do I call her and say, listen? And Rachel's like, yes. And then Rachel says, if you don't go, it will destroy everything. And Erika replies, yeah, that's not fair. So between that time and the time she went to Sutton's, she had a call with Kyle because she told Sutton that she had a call FaceTiming Kyle. And then all of a sudden, her attitude changed from, that's not fair, I should call or text, to, I'm not calling, I'm not texting, I'm firm on my decision, and that's the end of it. So what changed her mind? Think about it. Now, do I think that Kyle said to her, oh no, you shouldn't go, and you shouldn't text or call? No. But I think maybe there was a conversation where Kyle said, listen, she hasn't had a lot of respect for you. Look at the way she talks to you. Why should you give her respect back? I think it's something like that because Kyle is a great manipulator. She manipulates the conversation. She manipulates people. Even Teddy Mellencamp, she didn't have to go on Two Teas in a Pod and say all these things about what happened at the wedding with Dorit. She didn't have to explain the lawsuit between Kyle and Kim. She didn't have to do that. And I don't think Kyle called her and said, hey, put this on your show. I think that a conversation was had where Teddy feels like she needs to defend Kyle. You see what I'm saying? Like, it is crazy, but just think about it. This season, just taking this season, there has not been one episode, one confessional of Kyle's where she's not talking about Dorit. I mean, Dorit was Kyle's target this year for sure. And she manipulated everybody to think something might be wrong with Dorit. She's been late. She's shopping a lot. She's spending a lot of money. This is nothing new, but she made it a problem this year. She manipulated everybody into thinking that it could be a problem. And so Dorit being upset with Kyle talking behind her back, she should be upset. She should. Dorit took the blinders off, and Kyle's like, what are you doing? Why are you coming at me? Because she's trying to keep her hands clean. And I believe the only reason why she really targeted Dorit this year is because guess what? She doesn't want to talk about what's going on in her life. Yeah, they showed her planning her daughter's wedding here and there, but that's not really what's going on in Kyle's life. Do you think? Because Kyle doesn't really share. She hasn't shared in the last couple seasons. And so if she's targeting somebody else, like Dorit, then nobody's looking at her. She is a great manipulator. And I think she has manipulated a lot of people in this group. Erika, and I also think Sutton. Sutton has always wanted to make sure that she was friends with Kyle. She always wanted to make sure that she was on her good side. That was a problem that Garcelle had with her. And yet she's still doing it. So I really think this. And think about this too. The issue with them being left stranded in Italy. They weren't stranded in Italy. Listen, somebody's filming them on that street. Production is not going to strand anybody. You see what I'm saying? They weren't stranded. But all of a sudden, they're making in this point. And yet, have you heard Kyle talk about it? Not really. You're hearing Erika talk about it. You see what I'm saying? So, that's my opinion. This season, Kyle is the great manipulator. She has manipulated conversations. She's manipulated everything about Dorit. She has made it a point to make sure everybody thinks something's wrong because she's late all the time. She spends a lot. This has been going on for years. This is nothing new. But she manipulated everybody to think something's going on. She is a great manipulator. And she's doing this so that nobody takes a look at her. That's what I think. You know, that's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. But what do you guys think? What do you think? Do you think Kyle's manipulating things? Or manipulating the cast? Or am I crazy? I could be that too. You never know. But I love to keep this conversation going. I think that this is a 3-part reunion. I think it could be good. There's a reason why they have it in 3 parts, obviously. But, you know, overall, the season was wonk wonk. I mean, this episode is really the episode that's really picked it up. And then, of course, with the previews of the reunion, it looks like it'll be picked up. That's what we were waiting for all season, is that type of energy, but we didn't get it. Because instead, we got Kyle just manipulating everything. That's what we got. And it's a shame. But what do you guys think? I love to hear what you think and keeping this conversation going in the comments below. And before you do, you know what I ask. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any shows, and hit that notification bell so you'll find out when something's loaded. And it not only helps me, but it helps other podcasters too. It keeps the algorithm going. So when I ask that, there's a reason for it, please. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And don't forget, breakers, here we break the day.